Hello, beautiful people. So, today I wanted to talk to you guys about how I became a vegan in 2011 and how that impacted my life. So, I was born in a non vegetarian family, and yeah, but I was not very fond of non veg from the very beginning. And I don't know why, it just kind of naturally happened. Maybe because my parents named me Vishnu. Yeah. I don't know. Actually, I just found non-veg to be very chewy, and I just never really enjoyed its texture so much. So that's something that was never really a big deal for me. But I used to maybe eat non-veg in like pizzas and burgers or something like that, right? And well, but I had a massive sweet tooth when I was a kid, and I used to really love ice creams, pastries, and all kinds of other sweets. And yeah, so that's how things were. And in 2011, I was working for this company called Verity, and I used to basically just come back home and chill and watch some videos on YouTube to relax and unwind. And on a certain Sunday, I think it was, when uh, I was just surfing through YouTube, and well, back then YouTube was, I feel, quite a different space. And there was this video which was suggested to me, which said the greatest speech ever by Gary Yourofsky. And well, I had no idea. I mean, it like I was just doing random time pass, and it said the greatest speech ever. So I was a bit curious, and I just played it, and I was just going about doing my things. And it was just this guy, Gary Yourofsky, giving a talk in a college. And through the course of that 1.5 hours of this talk that I was listening to by Gary Yourofsky, and like I realized that because actually I had always liked animals, and yeah, somehow that was one of the reasons why I was not very uh, I didn't really enjoy eating meat so much as well, because uh, from a very early age I used to enjoy watching a lot of National Geographic and Discovery, and I also just liked animals quite a lot. Like I've had dogs, and I've had very deep and special connections with them. So yeah, when I watched this, I realized I was being a hypocrite, because like I had never really considered the amount of cruelty that goes into the dairy industry. You know, it's like I never really thought of it as a like yeah, I just never considered it. And on that day, I realized that the dairy industry is really messed up, and that it leads to a huge amount of suffering, right? And yeah, so that day I realized that I can't contribute to that anymore. Like I can't contribute to that level of suffering and abuse to fellow creatures on this planet. And so I became vegan. And that was just one video. And by the end of that video, I was vegan. And the thing is, like, before I saw that video, I didn't even know that that term exists. You know, I had no idea. And yeah, nothing really changed. You know, it's like, and at that time in 2011, when I became vegan, like, I didn't know anyone else who was vegan. I don't think I met another vegan for at least another 4 or 5 years or something like that, you know. And yeah, so next day I went to office and everything was same. It's just that I decided not to consume any dairy products or any other products which contain, you know, I mean, any animal products basically. And well, it was fairly simple actually. It's not it was so easy for me personally. Like the transition had barely any difficulty or struggle. And yeah, because all I had to do was just look at what items have milk and dairy in them, and I've just not have them. And what I realized is actually in South India, most of the food is already vegan. like you don't have to call it vegan, but like idli is vegan, dosa is vegan, upma is vegan, pongal, unless you go to some high end place where they'll put some ghee in it or something, is also vegan. And most of South Indian food is actually vegan, so that was fairly easy for me. And yeah, but the interesting part was that like when that happened, I wasn't trying to like promote it to anyone. I wasn't trying to like tell the world about it, that hey man, you guys should also do this or whatever. No, I was just going about living my life. And something very interesting happened, which is that in my office, like and at that time I had just finished my engineering and I had joined. Uh, and I realized, simply by me being me and doing whatever I feel like doing, like slowly people started to notice that okay, there are certain things that I'm not consuming, like maybe I'm not eating cake, and it's like a few other things, and I'm just a bit more conscious of, like, okay, hey, I don't want to have this. And yeah, like my colleagues got a bit curious. And then the interesting part was, like, there would be these managers from like other departments as well, who would actually come to argue with me. Like, and it's not like I'm going to them, it's like I'm not saying anything to them. I'm not even suggesting them that, hey, do something different. Not doing any of those things. I'm simply just living my life, right? And yeah, so there was this interesting thing where I realized that it seemed to me that just by me being me and doing my own things, right, uh, people were kind of coming to me, mostly the way I perceived it, to justify their own point of view. Like, and I realized that was the whole point of their coming and arguing with me, is that they wanted to, like, uh, somehow, in some sense, what I felt, explain to me why what they are doing is actually okay, which to me found felt really strange, because I wasn't even going and telling anyone anything. I wasn't like going and telling someone else that, hey man, what you're doing is wrong, don't do it, do this instead. No, and I was just because I had work to do, and I was just fresh out of college, and this was my first job. And but then also what I realized is that through this, like, there was obviously a lot of resistance at that moment in time, because my parents also were not very uh, happy about the fact that I'd become a vegan. And yeah, because at that time they didn't really understand, and they felt that maybe not having uh, any animal products will give rise to some sort of deficiencies, and I might become weak or something like that. And yeah, so they were worried about me from that point of view. And then there was all this other pressure from society and all that. But for me, it was quite clear that, like, I simply had a very simple, I mean, my reasoning was very simple, which is that I didn't want to contribute to animal suffering. That's it. It was just that simple. Like, yeah, and I don't care, no, like, at that point I felt that maybe if this diminishes the quality of my life a little bit, or that's okay, I can suffer the consequences of that, but I don't want to contribute to that level of suffering for beings on our planet. And yeah, so in the office, with all of these discussions, and when people would come and argue with me, what I realized was actually that my moral compass was fairly strong. And because at that time I was the only one that I knew. And for me personally, it gave me a lot of strength to actually stand up for something that I believed in, even if I was completely alone and there was nobody else to, like, support me or my thought process. And it didn't matter. And the other thing that happened is that like, I realized that how, like, a lot of people can be extremely self deceptive, and they need other people's approval in this process of self deception. And I found that pretty interesting. And another interesting thing that happened was that I would say actually the quality of my life improved in many ways. I can't really say how exactly, but well, not that like okay, maybe over here it's important that I bring up a point that I noticed, which is that it's important to make a distinction that veganism is not really healthy. It's not. It just means that you don't want to contribute to suffering of animals. Because when I became vegan, I wasn't really doing it for health reasons or anything. I wasn't. It wasn't about myself. Like I would just go to the supermarket and I would still just look at all the items and just look at the ingredients, and I'm just looking for like milk solids everywhere. And if I see that okay, Haldiram Son Papadi does not have milk solids, I will eat that. And if Oreo cookies don't have it, I'll eat that. And like any kind of junk that does not have milk, I would just eat it. It's not that I'm. There are a whole lot of crappy junk foods which are vegan, and then you can eat them. They don't have animal products in them, but you can still, like, they'll still mess up your body. And so yeah, that was the, like, in the initial part of my journey, I wasn't really that bothered about yeah my own health. So it's important that people make that distinction and don't confuse or don't kind of have even like a some notion that somehow veganism is anything related with health. And yeah, but still somehow I felt that my life improved, because also it kind of eliminated my choices a lot. And well, right now I think there are so many vegan options which are available in the cities, and maybe a lot of them are also junk and processed and stuff. But back then in 2011, 12, 13, like, that was not the case. So it just kind of automatically eliminated a lot of things, like, there were so many ice creams I couldn't eat, and sweets and pastries and all of that kind of went out my life. And my food choices became very simple. Like, for the most part, I was just eating sambar rice, and there's something that I would enjoy a lot. And yeah, I mean, to this day, this is like one of the favorite things for me to eat. I really like eating aplam, and yeah, and rice and sambar, and I would just like to put a lot of veggies in my sambar, and that's it. It's very simple. And I'm the kind of person that I'm perfectly okay with not having too much variation in my food. I could just like eat sambar rice every day for the rest of my life. Like, I know for some other people that might be extremely boring and stuff, but for me, I'm quite happy with that. And well, now of course things have changed. I also eat lots of fruits, and I really enjoy eating fruits. And where I live in Kodaikanal, we actually get really high quality fruits. In fact, yeah, some of the tastiest fruits that I've eaten we get over here. In the cities, the fruits are not really so great. Like, papayas are very hard to eat; they just tasteless. But over here, they're quite tasty, and we get really nice sitafal, ramfal right now. That's the season that's going on. Anyways, I kind of like digressed from the topic, but yeah. So I just wanted to share with you guys about how I became a vegan and how it kind of impacted my life. And to me personally, I would say becoming a vegan has actually greatly improved the quality of my life. And yeah, that's about it from me for this one. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye bye.